Hey everyone, Ariel Adams here with aBlogtoWatch, and with David Breton, we are going to be speaking about Baselworld 2018 as well as our top 10 watches and a little bit of background and honorable mentions. Both David and I and the rest of the aBlogtoWatch team are home. It's been a long week at a shorter Baselworld. Let me ask you a question, David. Did it feel like a 2-day shorter Baselworld?
Well, not really. You guys stayed a day and a half longer than I did, which is of course which made it longer for you guys. But still, we had basically the same number of meetings. So yeah, to be honest, now that I think of it, honestly, I wasn't thinking about it because it's such a blur. But giving it a little bit more thought, I will say that yeah, it was a little bit too short for us.
Yeah, it was a good show. I mean, the purpose of Baselworld as a trade show has been changing over the last couple of years, and one of the biggest talks at the show is there might not be a Baselworld in 2 years. And I heard that again and again and again, and I do not believe that there will not be a Baselworld in 2019 or 2020 or beyond. I think that Baselworld, even though it's a struggling show, continues to have a lot of purpose. The Swatch Group, Rolex, Patek Philippe, and LVMH are, the big companies sort of holding it together. Unfortunately, the shorter show and less resources to go around really just hurt the independents. Because, as you said, when we go to the show, our primary goal is to see, the big brands that take the time to, make special invitations and invite us and, are a little bit more organized. And normally what we do is, mixed into meeting with them, we go out to the independents, we try to discover new brands, and we still did that for sure. But there's just less time to do it, and it's challenging because no matter what, I always feel like we only saw like 50, maybe 60% of what I really wanted to see. There's still so much I wanted to do there, and I think that you agree with me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it's not just about special invitations, but a lot more about, what people really care about. And people care about the big names, first and foremost. That's just the way it is, and that's how it will be always.
Yeah, so...
Patek, Heuer, Rolex, Omega, you name it, people are just eager for the latest novelties and to see them hands-on.
Let's talk about overall trends. I know that this is something that people are always curious about. They want to know a lot about what's happening in the industry, where things are going. One of the things that really amuses me a lot is brands continually, and they've done this for years, deny that they look at what other brands are doing when making decisions about what to do, like colors and things like that.
Give me a break.
Prices. Oh, yeah. So, for example, like, blue is a popular color now.
Yeah.
It's just very popular because it sells well. Blue is similar to black and white and gray in that it's very universal. Blue might not be as universal as black, but it's a little bit of a change. So it's actually a very conservative color, and they pretend like, oh, blue is amazing, we just invented it. It's just like tons of blue watches, and I find it impossible to believe that a bunch of brands accidentally just decided to focus on blue. Like, I'm not saying that they got together and chatted about it, but they spend an enormous amount of time looking at what each others are doing and speaking to one another, in making these decisions. So, blue is really big this year. And we also saw a general focus on prices going down. We saw this starting probably last year. And we were encouraged because Omega, for example, was coming out with new watches that maybe 3 or 4 years earlier would have had price tags of $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, even $4,000 more for a similar type of product, and started getting a lot more realistic. And now we see a lot of other brands at the Swatch Group also having really good values. But now, rather than having like a $4,000 watch that may have been a $6,000 watch, now we're seeing a lot of watches under $1,000. And finally, I think that there's a lot of compelling options for people there that are just getting into it, or just, can never really have more than $1,000 to spend on a watch. You found that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the case. I mean, we've been praying and asking for this for so long and so many years, and been saying it's not going to work at this price point. Even 2 years ago, the mantra was, hey guys, it's not going to work for this much. And apparently, it's true, and prices are going down quite a bit.
Now, who benefits there? Would you say that it's new people? Would you say it's mainstream retailers and department stores? Would you say that it's seasoned collectors? Who do you think is going to benefit first there?
Everyone. I mean, it just goes through the entire chain, and it also, well, it's good for competition between the brands. And when a buyer goes into a store now, you can actually find really strong watches for under 5,000. And also, it happened. There was this streak of like 3 or 4 meetings where a number of brands had very strong products for just under 7,000 or 7,250, something like that. And I was like, wow, okay, that's pretty strong. And the same watches would have been $10,000 easy a couple of years ago, easy. And now they are, 7. So I would say this price range between 4 and 7,000 is just really getting super hot these days.
No, I definitely agree. I also feel that we're seeing a trend that doesn't really have an explanation of why things were really expensive in the past, which is kind of funny to me. No one's saying like, oh, we're able to, create efficiencies here. There's this tacit acknowledgement, and no one's really saying it, but like, oh yeah, we were too greedy. So it's and that's the funny thing. We have to like notice. No one goes to us and be like, hey guys, you want to do something really cool for a good value that I know you appreciate? We'll be like, oh, and how much does this cost? And they're like, oh, $860. I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. So it's funny because they're not really excited about sharing the lower prices. They just sort of are. Did you find that kind of interesting or amusing?
That's absolutely true. Now that you say, yeah, it's absolutely true. That's funny.
Because normally you'd think that'd be something that they would be a little bit more excited about.
Yeah, make a big deal out of it. I mean, look at this Omega, for example, under $5,000, and you get the 300M with a bunch of new refinements in it. So this is just one of the many things that we like at Baselworld.
Okay, so before we talk about the 10 watches and things like that, what else did you notice at the show? Every year things are a little bit different, and we've spent years giving advice, I don't want to say complaining, to the watch industry about things that could get better. I really like that our analyses, which are sometimes a little bit curt, but our analyses of what brands should be doing or feedback seem to all be followed. Like, I can't think of anything that us sort of like, jointly as a team have suggested to the industry that has just proved wrong. And again, I'm not fishing for compliments or trying to pat ourselves on the back, but I feel actually quite good that our assessment of the industry and our analysis of what's going on and our suggestions tend to be things that are usually spot on or are being followed and agreed with. It takes several years for it to fit in, but I feel confident in our ability to look at the industry and give feedback, especially since people seem to agree with us. And that motivates me to further look at these things and further offer feedback in a consultative way to the industry. Sometimes they get crap. You're like, oh, Ariel thinks he knows everything and blah 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 blah. He's so cocky. I'm like, it's not about that. It's not about my ego. This industry is our job. This is what makes us money. This is our future. Why would I not want the industry to be healthier? I don't just go around complaining for my ego. I want there to be a long-term, sustainable luxury watch industry so that you and I can keep doing what we're doing and feel positive about it. Like, we're not just complaining to be dicks.
Yeah, long-term sustainable. That's the really big thing here. And that's why this year is so much different than the others, because we feel there's a push towards sustainability and long-term thinking ahead. Bunch of new collections, some additions here and there, and you can just feel that the whole thing. Most of the big brands are concentrating on adding value, details, and more coherent and more reasonable pricing altogether, because they understand what they had been doing so far is just simply not sustainable.
Right. Okay, so was it a challenge to create the top 10 list? Like, what were we thinking going into this process?
I think this year it was. What I was thinking about is that it was difficult last year. I distinctly remember that we had a really tough time coming up even with 10 watches that we liked, that we genuinely liked and could recommend last year. And this year it was really easy. I mean, we have a bunch of watches on here and we could have added a few more. So even in this podcast, we will make some honorable mentions. So this is what was on my mind, that God, this is easy. And yours?
It was challenging this year simply because there was not as many what I would call innovative watches that captured our attention. The industry is not in a phase right now where it wants to deeply invest in new stuff. I'll call that novelty. it is in a phase where it's trying to strengthen the things that it's good at. So the vast majority of watches we chose are not new watches or collections. They're updates to existing things. And that's not something we tried to do. It's not like I was like, okay, everyone, no new watches, just good updates. I remember a couple years ago, we actually did 2 lists where I had a top 10 list of updated watches and a top 10 list of like brand new collections and things like that. And this year, there wouldn't even been enough top 10 new collections to even fit in there. So pretty much everything we saw was an update, and we had to make the careful choice. You know, for example, there's no Tag Heuer on the list. Is that because Tag Heuer didn't come out with any good watches? No, Tag Heuer came out with some great watches, but they weren't ones that seemed to beat out some of the other ones when it came to sort of like visceral desire. For example, Tag Heuer came out with a GMT version of its Carrera Heuer 02. So they took the Carrera Heuer 02, which is a great in-house movement, and they put a GMT complication in there. Pretty much everything else is the same, and they had a two-tone blue and black ceramic bezel. And they're like, okay, we can do that too. Now that is sort of like oh, Rolex did it, we can do it too now, which is fine, but not really new. I think the watch had a few too many colors. So while I really like that watch, I think that the initial version for 2018 isn't like the hot model. They came out with it. They wanted to get the attention that I think that they deserved. And again, it's a good watch at a great price, honestly, at a great price. But I'm waiting for a few more color variations that we know will come before I say, boom, that's the one. And then the other one, the Heritage model, was a 41mm wide version of the Carrera Caliber 16, which has a 7750. And I really like that one because it has sort of this kind of vintagey aesthetic to it, but not a new case, just a new dial. I just don't know if it was enough.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, like this one. Yep.
So that doesn't mean that it's not a very marketable product. It's very nice, and if you like this, by all means get it. You'll enjoy it. But it's just a matter of like the amount of novelty. Now let's contrast that to Omega's new Seamaster 300M. So this is a Seamaster that most people that kind of grew up in watches in the 90s think of. And it's, don't get me wrong, there's no shortage of Seamasters. There's Seamasters that shouldn't even be called Seamaster. Like I remember there's like racing watches that are called Seamaster. Like the Bullhead, remember? that anyways.
Yeah.
This is the Seamaster that came out in 1993 but updated in 2018. Everything's new. Movement, case, dial, hands, bracelet. There's the steel versions. There's some two-tone ones. We know that Omega will come out with more in the future. There's a limited edition titanium and tantalum and Sedna gold one, which is cool, but
that's my favorite actually.
No, it's cool, but it's more than double the price of the steel one.
Well, yeah, that's true. But it has Sedna gold in it and tantalum.
Right.
And titanium.
But it's not. But it was not enough for me to say that this is a top 10 watch is a limited edition.
No, I agree.
For me, it's the steel one.
Yep.
It's the steel one that comes in a few styles. There's blue, there's black, and there's that one that you saw at the top there that's sort of a silver dial with blue. Now, this is a collect, and again, you look at this, you're like, oh, that looks familiar, and it does. It really looks a lot like the core Seamaster 300M that everyone's seen, but everything is new. A little bit bigger, 0.5 millimeter wider, so not too much bigger, just 0.5 millimeter. It goes from 41.5 to 42 now. The dial, the ceramic dial with the laser cut waves, the new hands and hour markers, there's a sense of three-dimensionality to it. And again, an under $5,000 price with their master chronometer movement. It's caliber 8800, I believe. Just sort of dripping with desire, value. This is something that you could wear every single day and have no problem. This could be something you just add to your collection. You could use this as a sport watch. You could use this as a quasi-dress watch. I think Omega just did a great job. They didn't have to invent anything new, right? They just sort of improved upon something that they had, and it was a major improvement, a lot of R&D. But if you walked by this watch in a store and you didn't know any better, you might not even know anything's new.
Yeah, but that's the thing, I don't want to sound ignorant or anything like that, but maybe I'm going to, but I will say that these watches don't really have a terribly high number of parts. It has a case, it has a dial, it has a bezel, and a strap. And some smaller components here and there, like the crown and the helium escape valve, fine. But every couple of years, this should totally be in the picture that they redo all of it. Just fine tune it. Yes, half a millimeter here, some laser etching in there. Just minor improvements to make it, you know, make it noticeably new for those who already have one of these. Because let's be honest, if you bought one of these 4 or 5 years ago, chances are you already got pretty bored with it, and or you beat it up, or you just want something new and something nice. And I can imagine a bunch of people going in there and saying, oh, okay, I like the dial, I love my friggin' Seamaster 300M. Just give me something new that goes beyond the scope of a new dial color. And here, yeah, you have new colors, but you also have enough number of new things to justify a new purchase, I think.
I can say this. I have a version of the previous generation Seamaster 300M. And very often, when a collection gets a new update, and I go ahead and I take a look at the new one, I'm like, well, it's cool, but I'm not really sure that we get an upgrade. With this, I definitely thought to myself, you know what? This is nice enough that I would happily add one of the new versions for 2018 to my collection and not feel like I was being redundant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree entirely. Let's look at the flagship. Let's talk about the flagship Omega just 1 second. The Apollo 8.
Oh, this is the flagship?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you know, this is a pretty big deal. This is the poster
So
child.
what do they do here? This is, and again, this is not on the top 10. We only had one Omega, but this is sort of one of those honorable mentions, I'll say. And I actually found that this watch was a lot better in person than the pictures.
Yeah. I find it pretty strong on the pictures.
Explain this watch.
Yeah, I like it on the pictures already because I like asymmetrical watches very much. Because it just takes so much more effort to do it right, and especially when you go beyond just the idea of different tracks here on the subdials, because you already have different sizes, different tracks, even different colors, but then you also have the surface of the moon, and this is just a bold enough idea to really impress me, honestly. A lot of the big brands are shying away from doing something like this. Omega has done so for ages. Even though the Dark Side of the Moon has already been a pretty badass watch, to be honest. This actually, honest to God, reminded me of Roman Jerome and their quirky, like, DNA this, DNA that type of watches. But this is Omega we're talking about with 1968 on the case back, and, just a very traditional product turned totally inside out. And for that, I love this watch very much.
I think that one of the things that people will not understand, and as you said, is just how much work was put into this. I mean, look at this picture right here where they take the 1869 movement and they integrate this dial. Some of these bridges are totally new. Like, this is not just we stuck a movement in here. Like, this is a lot of work.
A lot of work.
You could make an argument that this is kind of a cheesy novelty watch. Oh, the face of the moon on there. Oh, it's skeletonized. Oh, this is not like a tool watch. And you know what? You're right. It's not a tool watch. It is in the most real of senses a novelty Omega watch, but in a way that I think is very satisfying for collectors. And you look at the Snoopy, for example, that was very popular as well. That was a novelty watch.
Yep. Absolutely.
Okay. It wasn't a tool watch. It had a friendliness to it. There was an emotional connection to it. And I think that's what Omega was trying to do here. This one's a little bit of a different theme, and I'm not sure it's as emotional or immediately emotionally gratifying as something with a Snoopy on it. But I do think that as people see this watch, and this is a limited edition, right? I'm probably not a limited edition. Okay,
100%.
So this is not. So that's very interesting that they would come out with this not as a limited edition. I don't know that this is going to be an instant hit, but I think that this is going to have its moment of popularity sooner or later. This was in the 44mm wide case for the Dark Side of the Moon.
That is correct, but just 1 second on the limited edition thing. I think they will not be able to make enough of these. These will sell like hotcakes. I cannot imagine these not to sell out ASAP once the boutique gets it. It's just so freaking cool. And speaking of the case, what I really like about this is that yes, it has the DSOTM case, the Dark Side of the Moon black ceramic case, which is 44.25, I believe. But it's considerably thinner than those because it has the hand-wound movement of the moon watch, and not the more novel 9300 and then the later updated movement. So this is a hand-wound movement, and it's much nicer on the wrist, to be honest.
Yeah, that was a great watch. Okay, so let's move on to Rolex. Omega had a bunch of stuff. We'll obviously be speaking about that throughout the year. Rolex returns to the top 10 list this year. We didn't include it last year. That's the watch that we put on there. This is the GMT-Master 2 with the Jubilee bracelet and the red and blue ceramic Pepsi bezel.
Jubilee.
New case, new movement, the caliber 3285, I believe, that puts the GMT-Master 2 into the superlative chronometer range of watches. This is the newest generation of Rolex movements. It has +2, -2 accuracy a day and a bunch of fancy bunch of fancy things related to sort of durability and reliability. Again, this is very similar in theme to what we talked about, because nothing here is new. I mean, there is new. It's a new assortment, and detailing is fantastic, but this is not brand new in the sense it's nothing that anyone has ever seen before. It's not like people have to wrap their mind around a new aesthetic. Rolex and, you know, at the same time, Omega and a lot of other brands want to make sure there's this sense of consistency, as they like to call it. They want to make sure that when people think of the brand, there's this consistent idea. And
that's fair.
I don't want to say it's not lazy. It's good. I just wish they also added some things you never saw before. You know, this year especially, there's really no Rolex that we saw that you look at it and you're like, that doesn't look like a Rolex. Everything looked so much like a Rolex that you weren't sure if it was new or not.
Good point.
Now, this watch was really popular specifically because Rolex had not produced a steel watch with this red and blue bezel. It was only available in 18-karat white gold watch, which there is actually a new 18-karat white gold. And so the one that David has his little mouse pointer on right now, this is the 2014 GMT-Master 2. This is when they introduced the blue and red bezel in a white gold case. And at the time, Rolex's statement was, this bezel is so complicated to make, we can't make enough. We have to make so few that we have to put it in a white gold case. This is kind of a typical thing for them to say. And now, several years later, they have improved maybe their production. I don't know where they can get it to being in a more mainstream watch or a little bit more mass produced. And then what you're seeing here is another version. In the same year, when they come out with a steel version, they also come out with a new white gold version that has a blue dial as opposed to a black one. And I photographed this one. You actually had already left, and I saw this and I photographed it. And the funny thing is, in some lights you absolutely see it's a blue dial, in other lights you don't. And it's not the same blue as you can tell on the bezel. It's actually a different color blue.
But somehow it still works. I saw it in the windows, and obviously I didn't have it in the hand because I was busy taking pictures of the crazy Daytona. But yeah, this looks fantastic to me. I like the idea, but still, how can you justify spending at least, I don't even know, $25,000 more, $20,000 more just to get white gold and a blue dial, right?
Look, you know, white gold is a funny material because it's definitely luxurious. It feels good. It polishes a little bit different than steel. But if you just wear a white gold watch and people see it, really no one's going to know it's white gold unless they specifically know that that watch only comes in white gold.
Yeah. Which was the case with the Pepsi.
Not everybody wants a gold watch that looks like a gold watch, but you have to ask yourself, who is this demographic of person that says, I definitely want to spend the money on white gold, I want to know it's white gold, I want to feel that it's white gold, but it doesn't really matter to me if anyone else knows it's white gold. And I mean, it's a prestigious position to be, right? Like, you can spend more without feeling like you need to show it off. But I think the vast majority of people who purchase gold watches want either a yellow or rose or pink or red or whatever tone to see it. I mean, bronze. My theory is that bronze watches, while there's a lot of ways of discussing, you know, the reasons why you want a bronze watch, but for me, it really has to do with it looks kind of like gold, but it's not.
Yep. Yeah, and it's also a quirky material. Yeah, I'm just looking at prices here. You know, around 30,000, some below, some over it. Right around 30,000, you should be able to pick one of these up. And the new Pepsi will retail for how much was it?
8,800 Swiss francs. So roughly about $900, maybe a little bit more.
So technically a quarter of the price, you know, maybe a third of the price. It depends how you're looking at it.
But it's still more money than the outgoing GMT-Master 2 by a little bit. It's about the same.
A little bit, yeah.
It's about the same.
Yeah.
So the GMT-Master 2 in steel was the top one. Rolex also came out with a new version. Well, I guess there's the root beer ones, but that's a whole other discussion. Those have the same new in-house movement, so this is great. So for some reason, the Pepsi one isn't up to you. There's this awesome two-tone one with I guess it was a black and a brown, ceramic bezel, so also two-tone. The traditional 3-link bracelet, which some people like a little bit more. David, for you, this was a top model, right? The two-tone Pepsi one.
No, the root beer. I prefer
I'm sorry. I meant root beer. And there's also an all ever rose gold version of it as well.
Yeah.
So if you want it, so that's interesting. Then the same year they came out with a watch in two-tone and in all ever rose gold. And I'm not saying this is the first time Rolex has done it, but I usually find that they stagger it out. So it would usually be 1 year of all gold, and then maybe the next year, a few years later, they come out with two-tone, and then maybe a few years after that, they come out with it in steel. This year, they came out with it in multiple variants.
Right, that's exactly right. I freaking love this. Honest to God, the Pepsi is way too easy to like for me in some way, and it's just not. I think it's just an okay looking watch, but maybe the colors don't really do that much to me. This one with the Everose is just a more grown-up watch in some sense that I feel like I could wear in the long run more than the Pepsi.
So Rolex, like I said, also came out with a updated version of the Deepsea. This watch, when did the Deepsea originally come out? Like 2008 or something?
Yeah, thereabouts. A long time ago.
It's been about 10 years now, and the Deepsea for quite a while was essentially the largest Rolex you could buy. And it was a sport watch, so people were really excited. It was about $12,500. I think it's still about $12,500. And the Deepsea had some issues because it had some proportion issues, in my opinion. There was just, if you were really kind of a watch nerd like we are, well, the one thing that you noticed the most is the fact that the bracelet was a little bit too small for the case. So they had taken an existing bracelet. Yeah, they came out with an existing bracelet on the Deepsea, and they wanted to make sure that they sort of use it. So this year, I guess one of the new things is new bracelet, overall new proportions. It's just a slightly tweaked, better watch. There's the D Blue, as they call it, which is the James Cameron one, that dial, which has the blue to black gradient. Or you could go with the all black. And if you notice, look at those two watches, slightly different text on the dial. On this D Blue one, you have Deepsea in that green color, and then on the black one, you have Deepsea under the top text there. That's a little bit smaller. I find the black one to be a little bit
so much better.
Yeah. Okay. So now you're comparing between the old and the new one, right?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just saying the black dial is a lot better than the blue one in my opinion.
Yeah. And I went back to Rolex after we had our first meeting to take pictures of this black one. So I don't think it's online quite yet, but it was impressive. Now you can see the bracelet here is bigger. So that's the old one, new, old. Go to old.
Yeah,
new.
This is old. This is new.
Now the old one does about as good of a job as possible to make the bracelet seem like it works. But when you compare it to the new one, the bracelet's a little bit wider, and it definitely gives the watch a little bit more balance. The dial is tweaked. The hour markers are apparently a little bit bigger. So I think that this watch feels a lot better than the old one. Thickness.
Yeah, this is just one thing I wanted to show, that you have no idea how thick it is until you've seen something like this. This is a great shot, actually. Or something like this as well. So you see, like, this is how thick it is. So while we are comparing, the thickness or the width of the bracelet, this is what you get when you want to watch with 3,900 meters of water resistance. It's just gonna be a total burger. And this is why the wider bracelet was necessary, so that it sits more securely around the wrist.
Last year with the new Sea Dweller, they did the same thing. So now, when it comes to Rolex sport watches or dive watches for that matter, you have 40 millimeters wide, 43 millimeters wide, and 44 millimeters wide, which I think is good because for the longest time it was all the same. And so I think one of the most interesting watches that may become a collector's item, I don't know, is the Sea Dweller 4000.
Mm-hmm.
Which was a 40 millimeter wide version of it. It was almost indistinguishable from the Submariner. and I think it was one of the most short-lived modern Rolex sport watches ever.
Sea Dweller 4000. Was it short-lived at all? Really?
Well, when did it come out?
2014 apparently. Really? I thought it was way before then. That's interesting.
No. So, basically a 3-year run. You spelled Sea Dweller wrong.
It's fine. Rolex. Sorry, Google will figure it out. That's interesting. Oh, it's not even in here. Look.
No, they look when they stop making something, they just want to like make it go away.
How
so
Swiss.
3 years of production. It wasn't a bad watch. It was also 40 millimeters wide. It just didn't offer enough difference. And I think that what Rolex realizes is that it's not just about making like the collectors happy. It's also about offering a degree of product differentiation, which they seem to understand sometimes. Other times they don't.
Yep.
Are you finding them here? What are the
yeah, all I'm saying is that that's interesting because
they're not cheap. They're going for a lot. I think it's just because they're very rare. That's
no, this is the older one. They used to make a 4000 before.
Yeah, they just called it the 4000 because
early 2000s.
Well, that's the wrong watch. It wasn't called the 4000. That's just mislabeled.
Yeah, I know what you mean. This was the new one with the maxi case on it. Yeah, and it's going for low tens, low to mid tens. That's a lot.
That's actually basically retail. It's not being apparent on this platform. It's not even being discounted. But it's that's an interesting model. Okay, so let's move on from Rolex. It's funny. We didn't put it on the list because it wasn't really new. But we went to look again at Konstantin Chaikin's Joker and the updated models, and I just keep being reminded of how much I freaking love that watch.
I freaking love it. It's
the pumpkin one.
Oh man, I saw that. I saw some pictures of that. That's hilarious. It really is.
It was really, really cool. So let's get back to the watches that were on the list because this is not this isn't one of them.
Yeah. Oops. Is that the one? That's the pumpkin. Yeah, that's hilarious.
Yeah. I got some better pictures of it. Those are the colors are kind of screwed up, but it's a very attractive looking dial. Very attractive.
Yeah.
So
top 10.
Let's go back to the list there. Favre-Leuba. I don't even actually remember the name of this model. It was like the C something, but they came out with a 41 millimeter wide version of their sort of standard case. Let's go to their website there. There it is.
This one? Yeah,
what is that called again? I feel like I love how I forgot the name of it, even though I really enjoyed it. Yeah. I always think of the Raider Harpoon. That's like the only, in the Bivouac. I remember all their neat names.
So you enjoyed this one for some reason?
For some reason, look.
I'm not sold on it, to be honest. That's why I'm asking.
It's okay. Let me explain to you what I really liked about this watch. First of all, it's under $2,000.
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, it has the makings of a watch that is a men's watch. It's legible, but it has it's a dress watch with masculinity to it, and it doesn't look like anything else. And when you wear it on your wrist, you get this sense that it has, how should I explain, the heritage of a sort of like 70s sport watch in a very wearable daily wear case, and it's not ordinary. And so often when it comes to these watches, they just sort of feel like everything else.
Yeah, that's actually true.
So what I liked about this was the price point, the quality, but also that, and I don't think it's going to be a hit right away. I think it's going to be a hit a few years from now when people start to get on board with it and start to wear it and things like that. But I like that one. It's a little bit of a sleeper hit, but I found it. What is the name of the model? I can't believe
it's not even on their website, because why would it be? Oh, Seabird.
It's the Seabird, the Raider Seabird. Okay, it's the Raider Seabird.
Raider Seabird.
This is why I forget things like that. I don't see anything. I don't know how something with a dive theme, Seabird,
Raider. Just random words.
You'll like there's one with a gray dial that I really liked a lot.
Yeah, 1950s. A price. Automatic or quartz? That's very descriptive.
That's the small. Yeah, that's the 37. So you're looking at the smaller one right there.
Whoops.
Whoopsie.
Whoopsie daisy.
Maybe that one's bigger.
No, 40.
It's 41. All right, you're looking. Okay. So that was a good one. And again, I know people are going to sort of initially be a little miffed with it, but I think that when they wear that watch and they put it on, they'll agree. The Patek Philippe Aquanaut.
Yep.
With the chronograph and steel. That's not the exact name. This is our proprietary list here. Just typing in Aquanaut.
It will bring up everything, but no, this is So
you disagreed, and I understand your point. Okay, Patek comes out with a steel Aquanaut with a toned down version of an existing movement. So it's a movement they make, and they remove some complications to make it a more simple automatic. Priced at like about $38,000.
No, more.
Is it more than 38,000?
I think it's low 40s.
Really? So
it really hurts. Oh, 38.6 CHF.
Swiss francs. Okay, so we're not sure exactly what it'll be in USD. Oh, we do know, but it's going to be about that same amount. I mean, okay. Here's the synopsis here. Do you think of it as being like an amazing value? Patek is like, oh, it's such a good value. I don't think it's a good value, but I think it's, if you're into Patek, which is a prestigious brand that is known for being expensive, and you want a fun, sporty look that they haven't really offered before. This case was only previously available in white gold, and only one model that came out last year. And this is a larger version of the Aquanaut. I like it because it's satisfying. And for people that want to spend Patek Philippe money, I think they're going to really like this one. This is not, like I said, what I would call a high-value watch. If you want a really nice watch for less money, you can get one for a lot less money. But again, this is for people that want Patek Philippe, but also want to be larger and modern, and want something a little bit sportier. And for them, I think the model like this is perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, well, overall, it's a likable watch. I want to like it more, but I find the price offensive. That's where my conflict comes from. That I want to like it more, but I find it offensive.
Well, Patek Philippe is quietly nodding, saying yes.
Yes, we want it to be. Yeah. That should be their motto. Patek Philippe, offensive.
Just slightly.
Just slightly offensive. I mean,
effectively offensive.
Even on the black strap, it's especially bad. You know, there's this complete disconnect between the gray dial, or this brown gray dial, and the black strap. This is really bad. But on the orange strap, it's striking. I love it on the orange strap, but it's still for a beater. I mean,
just to make everyone be aware of it, Patek Philippe is so kind in that if you buy the watch, they offer both straps. It comes with both.
No way.
So generous.
So generous. How will they stay in business like that?
I don't know. Giving away rubber straps like that, I don't know that you could. I mean, what, 5-6 more years and they're out of business giving away all these rubber straps?
Quack, quack.
Okay, let's talk about one that you liked that was your choice.
What's
the Tag Heuer.
Yep.
The Bamford Monaco.
Yes, exactly. Which is
this watch was, there we go. It's actually called the Tag Heuer Monaco Forged Carbon Bamford Edition.
It is not. I actually called it that. That's the funny thing, because I went through all the press releases and even the website, everything, and Tag Heuer does not anywhere mention the watch by its name. Anywhere.
Really?
Yeah, never ever anywhere. So I came up with this name because I figured it's pretty descriptive.
Okay, that works.
Full disclosure, but yeah, it's an okay name. So yeah, I like this watch. I dig this a lot.
So Bamford is historically known as being a Rolex modifier, and what he would do is he would get a Rolex, like he would buy a Rolex, and then he would modify it, and he would modify it by coating the case, and changing the dial, and sometimes painting hands, but it was modification. And late last year, we were there when they sort of Tag Heuer was, I'll say LVMH announced that Bamford was sort of going to be exclusively modifying their watches. So that's like Zenith and Tag Heuer and maybe even Hublot. Now this is the first watch that Bamford worked on the design for, but that was produced from scratch, meaning he wasn't modifying it. And that means an increase in quality. I think it's expensive, but Bamford likes it that way. His name is on the dial, and it's a forged carbon case with this cool electric blue color. What was it, about $8,000?
Yeah, a little bit. 8,100 US.
And you can only buy it online, right? Or can you buy it in some boutiques?
Online or Tag Heuer boutiques.
Online or Tag Heuer boutiques. So right now, what you see, these are, my understanding, these are modified. Yep. So he would take a watch and he would modify them. And you see here, you have some Bulgaris. This is all LVMH stuff. Yes. Zenith and some tags. So what he's going to be doing is I guess, spending a little bit more time in the development and design process to come out with hip looks. Jean-Claude Biver thinks this is hip. And because he thinks it's hip, he thinks that it'll take some of these core iconic designs and have them appeal to people that might not just want to go in the store and get, you know, the average thing here. And you can customize. And people don't sort of forget this a little bit. Is that something that Bamford one's going to do? The tag? Can you customize that one, or is it just that blue one?
I don't think so, because you can buy it directly from the stores and the boutiques. So it's actually a limited edition of 500. So no, I'm going to go with a no on that one.
Now, if you look here, there's like a bazillion different abilities to customize here, and if you want to do additional ones, you can. Yeah, but does it? It would worry me a little bit, because as a consumer, like, I don't want to come up with something that doesn't look good.
Look at this. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yes. Now.
David is now trying to make the least attractive Zenith Bamford Type 20 pilot.
This is why I'm not a watch designer. All right, let's get out of here before yeah, it makes me throw up. Yeah. So back on this. This really just shows, how.
But this one does not make you throw up.
No, I freaking love this watch. I like it.
What do you like? Tell us what you like about it.
What I like about it is that I like the Monaco as it is. I like it when it's contemporary design, because Monaco has been really absorbed in all this vintage stuff lately. Golf this, or like mimicking the originals, indices, for example, and all that. Trying to be as close as possible to what the Monaco looked like, 40 years ago. And this one is one of the first modern contemporary Monacos in a long while. I mean, I remember the Caliber 36, which was very cool. I remember the V4, which is amazing, but they were both pretty expensive. This is not cheap, but at least it's brand new. It's brand specking new look for the Monaco, and of course many hated it. It was expected, but I dig it. On the wrist, it's okay. It looks fantastic. I just like a modern Monaco. That's what it is.
I think what was impressive about it is, one, that it was sort of produced from scratch, which is good, because it means that Bamford can sort of inject his design sense, but also have it be the same high quality as you would expect from a factory watch, which is good. It's also, it adds a fashion dimension that means that this has a little bit more of a pop culture relevancy to it, and we like that, because that just makes watches more popular to begin with. So this was a top one, not only for the way it looked, but also for sort of, I think, what it means a little bit for the industry, which I think is a positive thing.
Yep. Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. And it's really weird that they call it the first, because they've been working together for quite some time, Tag Heuer and Bamford. But yeah, I do like it. But the only thing, I just wish it didn't say Bamford on the dial. I mean, honestly, it's just, it says on the case back in all caps. It's just, I understand that it's a collaboration. I like a lot of what Bamford is doing, but I sort of wanted this to be more of a Heuer than a Bamford, to be honest. That's the only.
It is more of a Heuer. It is that's mostly Heuer.
That is true. So anyway, I do like this watch, and kudos to both of them for putting it together.
Okay, what's next on the list? Maurice Lacroix, the Icon automatic chronograph. I'm actually looking at a piece of paper that they gave us here, and I'm looking at the various dials of this. The chronograph comes in 3 different dial colors for this year. So this is, I'm sorry, it's the Icon automatic chronograph. Price on the bracelet is $2,990. It's a $7,750. This is a look that isn't, I'll call it, extremely original. There's a lot of design elements here that Maurice Lacroix obviously has borrowed from popular sport watches in the last 20-25 years. But this is based upon one of their own old models, which is the Calypso. You want to go to Google, for example, and type in Maurice Lacroix Calypso. And as the Calypso came back, they didn't want to call it the Calypso. They called it the Icon. And at first, it was just quartz models. And this year, they're starting with automatics. And the chronograph, to me, okay, so there's the Calypso. This is from the 90s. So you can see where the bezel design came from. And this was basically one of their top watches. Kind of feminine, looking back on it now. And now we have this. And that's it on the strap.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm just trying to show that the similarities in the bezel design. It's cool. I like it a lot.
I'm trying to see if any of those ones you're looking at are.
This is the new one.
No, that's a quartz one.
Yeah.
So that's the quartz one. It's really the automatic one. It's chunky watch. The bracelet finishing is good. I mean, I hate to say it, but this is a nice baby Audemars Piguet Royal Oak offshore. Especially on the bracelet.
Yep.
And it doesn't cost a crazy amount of money. It's satisfying to wear. It's got a nice level of finishing on it. It's a cool look. And I think that a lot of people are very happy having it. Does it lack a little bit of, I'll call it, originality? Okay.
Who cares? You know, not everything. I mean, give me a break. Not everyone. Does the Patek Philippe Nautilus lack a little bit of originality when compared to the Royal Oak? Absolutely. You know, when you go
sure
back.
Does.
Yeah, you see. So I know you don't really see people, you know, moan about it. If Patek can get away with it, then so can Maurice Lacroix. In my book, at least.
It's fine. There's this Bell and Ross watch that I want to include in the list, and then we're looking at it's embargoed for a few months, so we can't talk about it yet.
But we just did. Oh my god.
A Bell and Ross?
No, I'm just saying we just did. I mean, you know, it's just a joke. We didn't share any specifics. It's true. So here we go. I just wanted to look at all the Aquanauts for 1 second. I know we're getting sidetracked here.
Ah, there it is. Well, there's the reference number. Let's mention it for everyone. We're referring to the Patek Philippe. It's the Patek Philippe 5968A Aquanaut. Don't forget it's self-winding.
Duh. In all caps, like this is the end of the world. Like a self-winding for $38,000.
So the movement, like again, they have an automatic chronograph that has a subsidiary dial that has both a minute and hour hand for the chronograph. And what they did is they took it out. So this is just a 60-minute chronograph.
Wow.
So they simplified an existing movement that I guess would have made it more expensive.
That's just ridiculous. I mean, you know, it's just it would have made it look more complicated because it would have needed two tracks for the same subdial, and that can make for a quirky look. I agree.
Okay, you know what I want to do?
As it is.
You know what I want to do? I'm going to guess the difference in price between this watch with and without the additional the larger chronograph, right?
Yeah, 5161A price. I think it was. My computer is really slow right now for some reason.
Was there a version of the Aquanaut that had that? Because I know there was a version of the Nautilus that had that chronograph, but I'm looking for the one in steel.
Look it up. It was. I know what you. Wasn't it the 5960 or 5160 something?
It was the 5980.
Okay.
They have a two-tone version. So the like again, it's a slightly toned down movement. Okay, so here's a different watch here. This is the Nautilus version with the slightly more complicated chronograph. This isn't a two-tone, so it's hard to say. But this watch is the two-tone steel and gold with the slightly more complicated chronograph. When I say slightly more complicated, all I mean is that it has a 12-hour counter as well as a 60-minute counter. Yep. And this watch costs $62,370.
Jesus Christ.
So
about 50% more.
Well, we don't know because that watch comes on a full bracelet and is two-tone, so it's not an exact, like one-to-one comparison. I'm just trying to find if there's another steel watch that Patek Philippe has with this particular movement inside of it. Yeah, because I don't think the Aquanaut had one before.
No. No, I don't think so.
Yeah, it had the travel time.
Yeah.
Well,
exactly.
I'm just going to go on a limb here and say that there are definitely going to be there's at least $10,000 that you are saving by not getting the 12-hour hands.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an expensive hour hand. Moving back on to our top 10 Jacob & Co. Astronomia Maestro.
The Maestro.
Hey.
This watch is about 26 millimeters thick.
What?
And about 50 millimeters wide. It's like wearing... So what I like about this watch is, you know the Astronomia, right? You're familiar with the good old Astronomia. Well, in just a few years, Jacob & Company, in addition to selling a bunch of them, and again, these are all like over $300,000.
Well,
there it is. Yeah. It's like a little terrarium, right? It's like a little globe you're wearing with like a little watch universe inside of it. And what the Maestro one does, you can see here, is there's a minute repeater. But because there's so much space in there, not only does it sound great, but look at those gongs, how wide they are.
Wow.
So can you imagine what that must sound like?
Bang, bang, bang. Bang, 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 bang. I'm hoping for something like this.
Somebody this year claimed to have the loudest minute repeater ever. Who was it? It wasn't Jacob.
I honestly have no idea.
Somebody claimed that like our minute repeater is the loudest ever.
Really? The loudest I personally have ever heard was the Chopard LUC Full Strike.
And that one was crazy loud?
That one was impressively loud, yeah. Because it was striking the crystal itself. So the crystal went down into the movement, so to speak, and the gongs and the front crystal were the exact same piece of crystal. So the hammers are striking the crystal itself. So the crystal acted like basically a speaker, a loudspeaker.
So unless you're actively touching the crystal, which I guess could be possible, it'll sound good. Because I'm imagining if you touch the crystal, then it'll just be a little bit muted.
Yeah, I actually didn't try testing it. I was so impressed with the sound. But yeah, I guess that could affect it. But why would you touch it? I mean, you're listening to it.
So there you can see this. You can see the slider there. What other complications does it have? So in order to get this minute repeater there, they had to move up I'll call it the Astronomia set of arms.
Mm-hmm.
You have the time, which is in the middle, which I like. So it's in the middle of the dial. You see there, that's kind of difficult to see the time that's in the middle. Then you have a moon phase indicator on a little star map. Then you have an Earth that moves. This one you can't really see. There's like a little engraving of an astronaut that moves around. And then you have a triple axis tourbillon.
Just absolutely insane. Hold on, let me find a better picture.
I tried to take a bunch of them. It was a challenging watch to take pictures of. Look, it's not comfortable. There you can see the little astronaut right there. It's not what I would say you'd want to wear every single day. But if the strap is secure enough, it's not an uncomfortable watch. It's really not.
Yeah. Unless you want to wear anything with long sleeves or reach into a
bag.
How
dare you? You cut a hole in your shirt for this watch.
Yeah, you better.
Well, so imagine that's a risk statement there. I mean, that is when you want to spend several $100,000 on a timepiece.
Spend on this.
Not only does this thing look crazy, but like once you get people's attention, you're like, check this out. Then you activate the minute repeater and it dings and everyone goes crazy, and then you're the talk of the party.
Yeah. No, I love it. That's a cool piece. That's a cool piece. We're running out of time, so let's move on to Glashutte Original Senator Chronograph.
What was this watch? I always forget the name of it. It is a Senator Chronograph, right?
Something or another with Senator in it.
It is a Senator. The Senator Chronograph Panorama Datum. This watch was a little bit challenging to put on the list because it wasn't like that new. It's not a new case. It's not a new bracelet. It's not a new movement. There's a picture of it. These are the no. Those are the limited edition ones. It's right there on that brown strap.
Yep, here. Such a great looking watch. Oh my goodness.
So I like this one on the bracelet. They put it on a brown strap, and the brown strap actually makes sense because the black lume that is used, this black Super Luminova, has a little bit of a brown tone to it.
Mm-hmm.
It looks good on the brown strap for sure. For me, the hit is on a bracelet. So why did I like this watch? One, that movement is very cool. It has a power reserve indicator. It's 12-hour chronograph. It's got a big date. It's automatic. It's from a German company, so you know it's great. Super legible. I just see this watch. This is about, I think it's in the $12,000 region. This is a watch that you could wear easily every single day and be very, very happy with it. but it's also sort of a collector watch. And so I appreciate this one, not necessarily for its novelty, but its particular mixture of satisfying elements. There you can see it there on the bracelet or on the strap as well. So look at that. It's legible. It's easy on the eyes. It's a good brand. It is conservative, but it's sporty enough and cool enough that I think you could enjoy wearing this all the time.
I love the legibility on this. It's just so great, so refreshing to see a watch this legible.
You turn it over, it's got a pretty movement. I just found this watch to be satisfying and something that was very sellable. Is it a little bit of a sleeper hit? Yes. Is everyone going to be as excited about it as me? No. But I think it worked out really well, and I like to see stuff like this in the market, because in addition to things that are really great to write about, there's things that are just, I think, really sellable, and this is definitely one of those.
Yeah. I'm happy for Gio that they put this together. Hublot Big Bang Unico Red Magic.
Magic Red. I mean, look, you put this watch on. It's just the Big Bang Unico, the 45mm Big Bang, in a bright red ceramic case. Why don't you go to our shots? Because I think our shots are going to be more telling.
That's true.
I shot this watch, and I was just happy. And the thing is, we knew about it. We knew about the watch beforehand, but it looks so freaking good.
Let's hope nothing is under embargo on here.
No.
I was actually at the Hublot manufacturer where they make these cases, and I saw these some of these parts are being made last summer. Of course, we were not allowed to talk about it, so I didn't. But the way they make it, now that it's out here, we can talk about it. So the problem with colored ceramic, and especially quirky, bright, vibrant colors like this, is that the pigments that they use to color the ceramic, they discolor, so to speak. They lose color and they turn white, and they create these white specks in the material when the material is heated to the extreme heat required to create ceramic. So what Hublot did is that they bought and they invested into a new machine that heats the piece extremely evenly. So the heat is distributed across the ceramic component very evenly, and so these little discolored areas in the material don't develop. So this is why they can technically, well, not really mass produce, but make a larger quantity of these colored ceramic pieces, which is I think a huge achievement. I also saw some cool, really quirky stuff that, again, we're not seeing here yet. So I guess I'm not allowed to talk about it, but I will say that this is just the beginning for ceramic.
The beginning for ceramic.
For Hublot ceramic, yeah.
The purpose of having this watch on the top 10 list is not just related to the fact that this is a red Big Bang. That alone, as David said, probably wouldn't be it, but it's about what's going to happen with this material and where Hublot is taking this. I think that for too long, people agree that watch case materials have been relegated to a very limited number of colors because it's difficult to find, a bright color that's durable. If you want to have a red watch and you don't have red ceramic, what are your options? You can paint a watch.
Yep.
You can have a plastic watch. There's just not a lot of options you can have that look good and will stay looking good.
Exactly.
Ceramic is hard and very scratch resistant. So you have the dependability of close to metal. It's more scratch resistant, but it'll shatter a little bit more easily. Look, people worry about ceramic watch cases shattering, and yes, it happens once in a while. But do you hear a lot of stories about it? Because I don't really.
Yeah. If you even if you Google it, which I did actually just a couple of days ago, you find a few stories, like a few. Given the number of ceramic watches that have been out there for a good number of years with Panerais and Omegas and a bunch of others over the last 3, 4, 5 years, we'd need to be seeing a whole lot more horror stories, than we are seeing right now.
If you drop a watch and it's enough force to break a ceramic case, it's probably enough force to do other major damage. So if you're just the type of person that is really worried about a small hit breaking this watch, it's not going to happen. It is more durable. I guess if you hit the right angle, this or that, but that wouldn't stop me. It just wouldn't stop me from getting a ceramic watch. And now that colors are getting more impressive, this is cool. They did this in black and white. Black and red. It looks fantastic, and there's more of this to come. So the celebration here is more about the promise of
technology.
the material and the technology. It does look great, but there's more to it than that.
I would love to wear this. Yep, it's freaking awesome.
Do we miss anything on the list? Oh, Casio.
Yes, we scrolled over it, I guess. Yep, there it
Casio
is.
G-Shock GMW B5000 series.
Brace yourselves.
I'll let you talk about this because I'm impressed. We definitely want one of these. This is your classic 5000 series G-Shock case, which is it comes from the 80s. It's square-ish. It's not a perfect square. And they rendered it in a few versions in all metal. Not just the case, but also a full metal bracelet. And they packed all their latest technology in here. So it's not the most high-tech G-Shock out there, but it has all the things that you want. It's got tough solar, it's got Bluetooth, it's got I'll call it their triple threat of, well, actually it's two different, it has double redundancy when it comes to being accurate. So in addition to getting signals from the atomic clock, if you're not around atomic clock, actually it'll go to Bluetooth first. So it uses Bluetooth not for notifications, but to make sure that the time is correct all the time. And I think that that's a nice use of Bluetooth. It doesn't change your wearing experience. It's not a watch that needs to be recharged or anything like that. It's solar powered anyways. But it brings the G-Shock that much more into the modern era by having something which is always accurate. And it takes that Japanese love of having a watch that you never need to worry about, and it just makes it even a stronger value proposition. $800, I believe was the price. $500?
Yeah. I did some calculations from Japanese prices when we were covering this story because obviously Casio debuted it very strategically several weeks after they debuted it in Japan. They debuted it anywhere else several weeks later. So I did some maths and it turned out that it should have been, the IP gold was about 700 and the other one was 6, but technically and actually in the US these will retail to 5 and 6. So this what we're looking at here with the steel case without the IP gold is $500, which is a really good deal.
I want to say this is a well finished case. This is not there are cheap Casios in metal. They do exist. There's the hipster one, which I call it. I forget the name of it, but you know that very thin, very basic hipster one that's small.
Yep.
Like if you're trying to think that this watch is like that, you're wrong. This watch is nothing like that. That watch is a basic to produce, inexpensive timepiece that's like, I don't know, it was like $100, maybe $150. This is so much more watch. And so if you're thinking about those I'll call them the hipster metal Casio watches, they're not even G-Shocks. Don't compare. This is far and away a different product.
No comparison. Yeah. This is a 5000 G-Shock. I mean, honest to God, if you like G-Shocks, nobody has to make a case for you to like the 5000 series G-Shock. This is the daddy of all G-Shocks. The first G-Shock in 1983 was a 5000 series, and this is the 5000 series, 35 years later receiving full metal treatment. And I asked, and of course, they put it through all the same tests, and it passes all the tests that a plastic, or whatever you want to call it, a plastic G-Shock, a resin G-Shock passes. So you get all the good things, and metal, which is very heavy, by the way. I put it on, and both of these are really genuinely very heavy watches, so that's maybe possibly the only downside. I like the looks, I like the feel, but the weight is really substantial.
The weight didn't bother me at all. If you wear this watch securely, you size it properly, it's not going to feel anything weird. And you know what? Casio is going to come out with more of these metal watches, but they just look. It's awesome. And look at that finishing. You get the brushing on the bezel there, the polishing on other parts of it. It's very impressive. And then for me, this is a watch that I was like, I need to get one of these. I need to wear one of these.
Yeah, I mean, we have to have it.
We have to. There's no other options.
No other option.
Okay, did we miss anything else? Because that was a long conversation about a lot of watches. Any honorable mentions?
I mean, we're running out of time, but I'm trying to think. Well, who else, basically? I like Rado a lot. I was really happy with their selection this year.
Yeah, you were able to meet with them. They seem to have some nice stuff there. You didn't see everything, but I agree. I think that Rado is due for a little bit of a comeback. What is that? Is that like, it looks like a leaf.
Yeah, so what happens here is that if you hold a watch like this, if you tilt it like this, you see a green mother of pearl dial. This what we're talking about here is the thin line Rado with a green ceramic case and a green ceramic bracelet. And this retails for 2,100 US, I believe, with gold hands.
That's a cool watch. But is it mechanical or quartz?
No, it's quartz. I wouldn't. It's a two-hand watch, so I technically I'm not missing mechanical at all. I would much prefer to have this slim profile and have the quartz. And so what you have here is this rainbow green colored mother of pearl dial, which if you tilt it the other way has somehow the etched pattern of a leaf. So it's just freaking amazing. It genuinely looks like the print of a leaf on the dial, but you can only see it in some settings. So it's a very smart design.
You know what I like about this watch, and it's part of another trend that's not new or anything like that, but things that I'm increasingly interested in. I call them artistic daily wears, right? Like, this is a good, legible watch. It could easily be something you wear every single day, yet it undeniably has a artistic component to it, which makes it distinct from tool watches that sometimes do, but tend to be a little bit more about pure purpose. So look at like just a basic Speedmaster. There's something artistic. Well, arguably it's not artistic. It's just it's a good-looking tool watch. Yep. This has artistic expression in it. And I'm not saying that watches like this are new, but if you wanted a watch that had artistic expression in the past, you'd have to spend a whole lot of money.
A whole lot.
But a watch that's first a good watch, and for men, there's plenty of them for women, but for men that have a playful artistry in it, again, not new, but I'm seeing more of them at prices that aren't ridiculous, and that makes me happy.
Exactly. And just one last thing from Rado, I saw this hyperchrome chronograph where they combined, and this is the first as far as I can tell, you know, I could be mistaken, but the bezel and the lugs are ceramic, but the case profile has bronze inserts, and the pushers and crown are also bronze. So one part of the watch will really, you know, develop this strong patina that bronze is associated with, and yet the other parts of the watch, the crystal, the bezel and the lugs, will look brand spanking new even years after. So I would actually genuinely want to have this watch just to see how it transforms over, you know, the course of 6 months or 12 months.
So you're still excited about bronze?
Yeah. Well, when it's done like this, I am. When it's in a dive watch from a micro brand for the thousandth time for $5.99, I am not. I'm sorry.
I mean, I'm quickly getting over bronze. I'm not saying that bronze doesn't have a place and it's cool, but I've worn bronze watches, and I think one of the things that bothers me the most about it is how easily bronze scratches. And this isn't new. It's not like, you know, isn't known to scratch. It also, like, depending on the alloy of bronze, sometimes it looks terrible. Sometimes it looks good. So not all bronze watches are created equal. It's cool, but it's definitely not the new steel, if you know what I mean.
It is not. It's genuinely a material you're not supposed to be babying. So if you're afraid of it getting scratched, you're looking at bronze wrong, in the sense that you should technically destroy the material and look how it develops that weird patina. So, and I know you don't really like watches that look scratched up or that, you know, change, you know, that deteriorate or something like that. So yeah, bronze is just not for you, and I totally get why. I mean, your reasons are perfectly solid.
If you get very excited about the idea of your jeans ripping really fast and looking worn in, then you'll love bronze. And there's definitely people out there for that. And I think there's this statement that some people make that, like, you can make it look like your own, which is true, because you're not going to beat your watch up just like someone next to you. So technically, a bronze watch will further look unique to you. I just don't know that for me there's a ton of value in that.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think on that note, we should end, because it's really getting a long conversation. But we'll talk a lot more about these watches as the year advances, and we have them come in for review later on in the year when they become available.
Thanks for listening to our recap of the top 10 watches of Baselworld 2018. Of course, you can see more about all of these watches now and into the near future on aBlogtoWatch.com. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.